Hello and welcome back to our show this afternoon about how to engage young people within the community into sport or sports related industries, including stewarding, on-site security and moving into private security a bit more long term. I believe we have our first caller on the line. Before we take the first caller, just one last update from Dan yourself. Dan, in terms of the security industry, how does someone move from the stewarding, from the security, from the camera courses to moving into personal security?
I think they'll be in a good position if they already work for a company doing the stewarding. It would just be a case then they would have to have an SIA licence, either a door supervisor licence or a security licence. Some of these courses can be funded with certain training providers if you meet the certain requirements, and generally you must be signing on, claiming universal credits, etc. If it's something that somebody wanted to do, then again, if they phone the studio later, I can leave some information for them to perhaps follow up with. But you would most certainly have to have an SIA qualification, which is generally 5 days, and then you would have to apply for your licence, which can take anything up to 12 weeks with the Security Industry Authority, and they will do vetting checks, DBS checks. Once that's completed and you've passed, then you can legally start to work for security companies on their man guarding sites, local pubs, local venues, etc., whichever you decide you want to do.
Moving on from that, in terms of the pubs, the nightclubs, the shop security, I know that Spears Worldwide has contracts with some very high profile individuals. So in the past, Rob Spears has worked with Lionel Messi on assignment. How do you make the jump from local security to moving into a field which I'm guessing would be so highly qualification wise to get into and experience? How does that jump take place?
The door supervision side of it will put you in good stead. The working on the nightclubs, the pubs, the venues, because you're going to be dealing with that sort of stuff week in, week out, and you're going to have to deal with it. To work with celebrities, VIPs, you have to have a close protection licence, which is the next one on from a door supervision licence. And that's obviously what Rob and a few other people have got that do their industry. It is quite a close-knit industry. It's not something I would recommend getting a licence and then trying to get involved with, right, unless you have done the legwork before as a door supervisor or you've been in the military, that sort of area. If it was something that you wanted to go into, I would definitely recommend doing the door supervisor course first, earning your stripes as it may be, working on the pubs and clubs, and then perhaps have a 2-3 year plan of moving on from there and getting your close protection licence. And working with people like Rob, Jerome and other guys that have got that qualification, they will be able to give you leads and recommend you if you're that kind of person. So definitely door supervisor course first, earn your stripes, and then look at moving on from there.
If anyone is interested in any further information, please, after the show, our details will be left and you can then get in contact with Dan, Hamid, Zafran or myself regarding community work, security, profiles, or just the next step to take within your chosen career. Sometimes a guiding mentor, which is what we can be, can put you in the right direction, put you in contact with the right people to get you on the right programme with the right progression steps. Zafran, moving back into the community side of the sports development, with funding being very tied up locally, we know that there's cuts within Birmingham City Council as well as wider councils up and down the country. How are local community groups continuing to self-fund the projects? We know the young people don't have the means to be able to pay for this. So how do you find that you're running your project so successfully on a shoestring?
To be honest, it's been a long journey. It's been a difficult one. I think sometimes if myself, obviously it was a total different circumstance. Like I said, recently Carol Watermoney who asked me the question as the Pride of Britain, that would you encourage others to follow suit in what you've done and the journey? And looking back, I probably wouldn't. Right. You're risking your own life and walking in the streets and in the alleyways, and some of the gangs you're relating with, you're trying to work with, you don't know what they're carrying, you don't know what's the next step they're going to take. sometimes you're trying to just talk to them generally. Again, you don't know what's actually happening in their mind. Regards to funding, it's a very delicate issue. A lot of times there's been so many cutbacks, but at the same time there's been so many organisations who've misused all these funds, and unfortunately now that trust factor has gone within organisations, within a lot of these big companies, businesses, that even they hold back just to check if these people are actually legit or not. I would say that carry on working as much as you can, even on a voluntary basis, and let your work do the talking. And we've actually walked the walk and talked the talk in that sense. When you're talking about 99 projects delivered in the city, now going nationwide, and also with over 20,000 numbers, I think our projects have been sustainable. That's why working with different people, we've realised we can do wonders with people, again, with the work, with the youth. But the main thing again is we need people to come in and trust what we're doing, and then actually put themselves forward as well, just for a helping hand, which everyone needs.
Is there, if you could pick one or two people that have been influential in you developing into the person that you are now? You've won 21 national awards, you've received a BCA and a BEM from the Queen and the Lord Lieutenant. Who have been a couple of key people in your life that have pushed you at the right time down the right path? And if you didn't have that support, maybe you wouldn't have ended up where you are now.
I think I'm going to thank quite a few people, to be honest.
Okay.
Yourself, well, can't miss you, to be honest, is from day on. My parents, the upbringing they gave me, can never forget that. Their blessings are always with me. So I know they're watching me live now. So without them, I'm not here. Same time, my in-laws, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, they've always supported me from day one, just as much as my parents have. My family in general. My kids have been very supportive. Again, everyone out there, the principal of the college, they're supporting me. If all these youths never showed that confidence in me from day one, nothing would have been done. But there's one person I can't miss out, who's always been with me, my pillar, and without that person, I'm not complete, is my wife. And the support she's given me, the trust she shows in me, the torrid time she's gone through with the young brother losing her life the way he did, got murdered, what she's been through, and just for honesty, to be honest, that she's always been there, supportive.
Fantastic. Right, we have our first caller on the line. Can I ask for your name and where you're calling from, please?
Hi, my name's Mobs Bajwa. I'm calling from Birmingham.
Fantastic. And Mubs, what's your question, please?
Yeah, I mean, Zaf's got an amazing story. And my question is, how does he just keep going every day, doing this amazing work he's doing? What kind of inspires him to keep going? We've heard about his story in the past, but what keeps him going now, like every single day?
Good question. Zaf? How do you keep going day after day?
First of all, thanks to Moops. He's recently just gone to Guinness Book of Records for his martial arts, Thai boxing.
Fantastic.
So he's a bit of a celebrity himself. I think the more positive stories you hear, Tom, the more it inspires you to do more. The more changes you see within youths, how they've started and what they're doing right now. Because with us is actually locating these youngsters, then working with them. But then once they're finished with us, it's not just finish education, it's how they get into employment and how they are 2-3 years later. So like I said, it's step by step. So it's not one of them ones where we just get funding, we find these youths, put them into somewhere and then forget all about them. We nurse them in, but then we spend time with them, how they're getting on education, find employment for them where companies like Spears Nationwide and everyone will help out, and then follow up how exactly they're getting on. So it's a 5-year, 6-year relationship which builds up. We've had kids from the age of 11, now they're 18 and they're with us.
So the key, if there was a couple of key points for you that make you get up every morning when you do your countless hours per week of community work, what are the couple of the key points that keep you going?
One is how they're going to change. Secondly, when they change, you actually seeing it from first hand. It's like when you see your kids grow, how they were first, how they were, and then you actually feel proud once they've achieved something. And actually that's more proud moment for you, for myself actually, by getting these awards or accolades. when you see someone progress in life, especially I see these kids as your own kids. So when you see them growing in stature and how they've transformed their life, it's very, very rewarding, very pleasing.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mums, for the call. Moving on, for yourself, Dan, what made you get into the security and industry? Was it something that was natural? Was it led from family, from friends, or was it something that you actively took a role and moved into that industry?
I'll be honest with you, Tom. My story is not too dissimilar to the story that I'm trying to sell to everybody else. I used to work in the care industry,
Okay.
and I lost my job. I actually then had to sign on, which was something that was probably not the most proudest moment of my life, which I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that can relate to. But we still had bills to pay, I still had the children to feed, clothe, etc, etc. And through the job centre, and the reason why I work so closely with them now, is they actually gave me the opportunity to do my SIA licence and to get into work. Without the job centre, I probably would have still been signing on now. So I kind of fell on it a little bit with the security industry because it was something that the job centre were trying to push. You do a 4 or 5 day qualification and effectively you've got a licence to go and do work. So it was a little bit of an easy fix, if you like. 10 years down the line, I'm doing a job that I actually love waking up to in the morning. I earn a good living from it. I haven't always earned a good living from it. I started off at the bottom. I used to work in the rain on the car parks, parking cars, and now I'm working in an office and I'm trying to help people 10 years on from where I was back then. So I've got a good understanding of what they're going through and the sort of barriers that they face and trying to help them break down their barriers. So I kind of hope that explains the question and gives you guys a little bit of an insight into where I'm from and why I do what I do now.
We have our second caller on the line. Can I ask your name and where you're calling from, please?
Hi there, my name is Javed. I'm calling from Birmingham.
Fab. And Javed, who's your question for and what is the question?
It's for the Zaf. Before I actually give my question, I just wanted to thank him for all his hard work and efforts in the community. I mean, I've seen firsthand the different initiatives and projects that he's got going in the area, and they're making a real difference to the community, and the kids are actually loving it. So thanks, Zaf, for all your hard work and efforts in the community. My question to Zaf is, how much support is he getting from the local councillors and the local organisations? Because he doesn't really charge for the initiatives that he's running in the community. So how are they funded, and how much support is he getting from the local organisations and the councillors?
Great, thank you. So Zaf, what support do you get from the local councillors, and is any of that support financial to help you run the sessions and pay for equipment?
Thank you to Javed. He's doing a fantastic job with the Phoenix Club, and I think Lighthouse is the new project they're doing with so many different kids. It's an honour. He normally brings all the kids to our sessions on a Saturday evening now. And as he says, we don't charge for any of the programs. We give from 2 o'clock till 9 o'clock football, and then we do the boxing, self-defense classes, all free. Regarding how they're funded, just our own time. We just give time. Our coaches come in. The champion early on, Fountain Mubs, Bajwa, they come at their time. Sabah, they come at their time. They'll provide the sessions for us. And like I said, the support mentioned, we don't get any support regarding financially from any politicians. We've never had it from day one. We've never had it now. We just rely on what we're doing right now. Some of the programs we did get support was the one with the Birmingham City Council with certain initiatives. But regards to the other projects we've done, it's all been on a voluntary basis. And to be honest, we're proud of what we've done and what we're actually doing. Because the kids, as Javed knows himself, they come with a smile and they go away with a smile.
And that's the most important.
That's the biggest importance for us.
Thank you, Javed. Our third caller, can I have your name and where you're calling from, please?
Hi Thomas, it's Mohammed Bilal speaking from Birmingham.
Okay, nice to meet you. Mohammed, who's your question for and what is it, please?
First of all, I would like to pay my gratitude and would like to say Assalamu alaikum to the guests and especially my dear brother Zafran, who's sitting in the studio, who has helped out a lot. I just want to give a brief message to my dear brother Zafran that he's helped me quite a lot in the community, and it's good to see him on TV and yourself today. And I thought I was watching the TV and I thought I'd give a quick call and just say that, you know, he's doing a fantastic job. He's mentioned you as well quite a lot of times and he's given positive comments about you. And the sessions that he's doing, he's helped me quite a lot because my health has been quite down recently. So Brother Zafran has, you know, he's given me the opportunity to get my health back on track. He's also featured me in the community newspaper as well. And I would really like to thank him. And it's fantastic to see him sitting on TV representing the whole community today.
Thank you, Bilal. One thing that speaking for Zaf, one thing that Zaf is proud of is that Zaf's work is not about Zaf, and the work that we deliver is not about isn't about awards. It's not about it. It's about the young people. And obviously one thing that Zaf is keen to do is rise other people. So any opportunity he gets, whether it be through local press, whether it be through opportunities, day trips, coaching courses, everything Zaf does is on a voluntary basis. He does it to support other people.
My younger siblings, he's given the opportunity for them as well. And it's always been a great blessing to work with Brother Zafran. He's done a fantastic job in helping us as a community. Voluntarily, obviously, he has quite, he has done a fantastic job, and I just pray that may God bless him with more and more success throughout his whole life.
Thank you very much, Bilal, for the call.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. And we've got another caller on the line. Can I ask your name and where you're calling from, please? Right, we've got last few minutes left of the programme. Dan, is there any key points you want to put across now just to reaffirm contact routes, what the next steps would be for someone? And actually, you touched on something just before the first caller, was about the stigma attached to people signing on. Especially with the security courses, they are funded through the job centre. So I want to try and expel that stigma attached to signing on, because actually, at that moment, there is support available, and it's a matter of going and using that support positively, as you did, and moving industries from care, and look where you are now 10 years later.
I definitely think you're right in saying there's a hell of a lot of stigma around signing on at the job centre. What we need to get into our heads is people are signing on because they're possibly at the worst possible time in their life, and they need that support. And quite rightly so, you know, it's there for a reason. The key for me is the longer you leave making a decision to better yourself, the harder it is going to be to get yourself a job. The job centre say if you've been employed for 12 months or more, or unemployed even, you're less likely to get back into employment, or you'll find it a lot more difficult to get back into employment. So my message to you guys out there is do it sooner rather than later. And with the opportunities that we've talked about today, and again, if you ring the show after, they'll be able to provide you with all the email addresses, contact details for these companies. They will be able to help and support you get back into work. But the two key messages for me, one, you have got to want to do it yourself, and you've got to want to better yourself, not just for you sometimes, but for your family. And secondly, you've got to make that first step. Once you've made that first step, then there is a lot of support there for you guys to be able to help you back into employment.
Fantastic. And same question to you, Zaf. Final messages.
Just keep on being motivated, to be honest. Every day, it's a different day. It's never doom and gloom, you know, with the people, especially working with the community, dealing with tragedies. Life continues. It's nothing about revenge, nothing about we're going to do something different. If you're going to do difference, try to make a difference in someone's lives. Do something positive. Like you said early on when the callers briefly said something about myself. It's not about accolades. It's not about anything else. We need to be rise by lifting others. So we need to work together as a community. And like I said, whatever opportunities there are, as Dan said, we need to utilize them. And we need to help each other. It's never about the number one. It's never about yourself. We should be together as a team. And like I said, we can do wonders for each other. And if anyone wants to join our programs, once again, the numbers, the details, everything's in the studio. And like I said, we've been there for the last 7-8 years. We're still here. And God willing, we'll be here for a long time.
Thank you. So finally, thank you very much to Takbeer TV for the opportunity today for Dan, Zafran and myself to come and speak to you. And we will see you soon on follow-up programmes. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.